Morning. Thanks for having me on the panel. I'm the founder of Oorja Energy Engineering, which provides sustainable and energy efficient cooling and heating solutions, primarily focused on commercial buildings at this point. Um, I would say I'm sort of a born again mechanical engineer, having lost my way for a decade or so, where I had built and then exited a couple of software companies. Um, so about a decade ago, I went back to Terry to sort of people go to Himalayas. I went to Terry to rediscover my engineering and basics again. So when I started Oorja, and a couple of years ago, uh, went back to Stanford for a one-year entrepreneurial related studies. So that's from an educational background standpoint. What we do is we use a gamut of energy efficient cooling technologies. Now that include technologies like radiant cooling, geothermal cooling, multi-stage evaporative coolings, and heat pumps in some cases, heat recovery, and the list can go on. I mean, almost about 15, 17 different technologies we use to design and implement the solution that we feel can deliver the maximum savings. Now, this can result in savings of 50% to as high as 90% we have, in terms of energy that would be consumed for cooling. I mean, no one technology can deliver this sort of energy efficiency, and there are a whole host of technologies available that we integrate to and implement to deliver these sort of solutions. And we have implemented them in various types of buildings, like commercial offices, warehouses, educational institutions, military barracks, factories, and even aircraft hangars. So while some of these technologies are proprietary to us, others have been around for decades, actually. It's just that, you know, we people have not been able to put them in a manner that we do today. So while we focus today primarily on commercial buildings, there's a whole huge scope in residential sector too. I mean, especially the high rises, and we hope to be there in the next few years. The exponential construction that is going to happen. Now, juxtapose that with the air conditioning penetration we have today, it's about 7 to maximum say 10%. Now, for reference, US, Japan, Taiwan, they're above 90%. China is close to about 70%. So with so many buildings coming up and many of these buildings being, I mean, will have air conditioning. Of course, the air conditioning consumption is going to explode. Right now, I think we are somewhere for cooling, we use about the capacity that is required, not the energy. The capacity maybe is around 70 to 100 gigawatt of power generation capacity that is required to service the cooling infrastructure that we have, which according to International Energy Agency is going to shoot up above 800 gigawatt of additional capacity. Okay. Now, 800 gigawatt of additional capacity. Uh, Today, we have around 400 gigawatt for all our national needs,
That's the
industry,
total installed capacity. Yes, that's
total
the
installed capacity.
Yep.
Correct. So the estimates are that we would require double of our current installed capacity just to take care of our cooling requirements.
Wow.
Now, of course, there are a lot of assumptions which may change with things like urban heat island effect and all that. We don't know where we will go, but these are at least numbers that we have that we can look at. So what this translates to roughly is, and I'm getting into terawatt zone now, is around 3,500 terawatt hours of energy, which translates to, at least with current electrical generation composition that we have, close to about 5,000 megatons of CO2 being generated. Now, Jayesh is being modest and saying 20% energy if he can save, but I think the days of these incremental energy savings are over. There are technologies available, and by putting multiple technologies, including the IoT solutions that Jayesh does, I think we should target 50% and above. There is a scope for that. Okay.
Absolutely, combined technologies. That was only digitization component. You're right.
Correct. Right.
With together.
So if we put together, Jayesh, you would agree, I guess, more than 50% is definitely possible.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And that, I believe, should be the path to our net zero. Our path to net zero today seem to be focused on generation, right? But I mean, instead of gigawatt hours, gigawatts, if we can start focusing more on these megawatts, that avoided generation.
Right.
I think our path will be shorter. Maybe we will hit that way before 2070 that we have target, right? And for cooling, India is in a very unique situation. So we are on our way to become third largest economy, right? And none of these advanced economies today are tropical in nature. Even China, most of it is above the Tropic of Cancer. So our energy intensity, our need, our efficiencies of our cooling equipments are way different from any of these developed economies' weathers, right? So we will consume, and in fact, we will become world's largest consumer of cooling energy, beating US and China by a large margin, not even a small margin. Okay. So there is, of course, a huge scope for green air conditioning or green cooling, say. And World Bank recently quantified it as a $1.6 trillion opportunity. And for reference,
is that just for India, Madhu?
Just for India. This is just for India.
Okay,
there was a special report taken out only for India. As I said, everybody's eyes on India because of growing affluence, warming climate, and this 5x more buildings that are going to come up. There is no other economy in the world that is even close to this sort of expansion in terms of especially cooling equipment. Okay. Now this 1.6 trillion is a huge number, huge market that needs to be. I mean, that is an opportunity. And for reference, if you see, last year the investment in entire renewables in India was about $20 billion. Okay. So we are talking, multiples of here in terms of opportunity that exists. And opportunity exists in a various forms. There is digitization. There are equipment manufacturers like heat pumps who are. So there's entire, gamut of technologies in which this can be done. But I want to go a bit beyond decarbonization here, because sometimes we focus too much on decarbonization, because there is if we go this way, there's also a crisis that I would call the problem of cool haves and hot have-nots. See, the middle class and above will buy it, survive somehow this heat waves and heating that is going to happen and cool themselves, even if it costs more, right? But there is a good section of the population that needs affordable cooling just to be comfortable. And I think at some point, maybe not today, this conversation needs to go beyond just the decarbonization goals we have, especially for cooling, because it is a crisis of humanity that we will face. Just like there are shelters for, let's say, when there is a hurricane, there is rain, you would probably need to build an infrastructure, which means your public infrastructure, like schools, bus stand, need to provide that sort of comfort. So even if people who don't have homes that have this sort of cooling can take shelter in such cases.